Hi guys, and welcome to the final part in this video series. Here I'm illustrating how easy it can be to paint large areas of a model without it being slow and taxing. The key is to actually use a larger brush and to make sure that the acrylic paints are fairly thin. Here I've added a little bit of Lifecolor's acrylic thinner to the mix, and as you can see, it's pretty much a speedy process. I'm adding paint chips to the top hatch section of the Rhino. On the inside of the Rhino, as I painted in the previous versions, I made the chips a lot more bolder because I feel that the inside of the tank is hard to actually see the detail, so I thought I'd made things more prominent. But on the outside, if I made the chips too much, it'd detract from the rest of the model. So I'm trying to keep things nice and small and within scale. If you look closely at the bristles of the brush, you'll notice that there's not much paint on them, and also I've rolled the bristles into a nice sharp point again. This is to ensure I have better control over the area that I intend to paint. Here you'll see that I'm being very sloppy with the paintbrush. I'm making sure that that raven black spills over the side of those vents. It's to represent heat that's been bellowing out over time, and it's slightly damaged the paintwork. I need to be a lot tighter when I do the metallic edges. I was driven absolutely mad trying to film myself overpainting these decals. The amount of epic fails I did on camera is unbelievable, and somewhere those clips are sitting in a vault ready to be uploaded as an epic fail video one day. But for now I apologise that I didn't get much footage of me overpainting the decals, but hopefully you got a little bit of an idea of how I did do that. Here I've gone back to the trusty old sponge to add some visual interest onto some of those panels that can seem a little plain. Sponge chipping is really fun to do, but as I don't want to really have a beaten up tank, I'm having to show a lot of restraint here, although I just love to just hammer the tank with sponge chips. Freehand paint chips are being added now. Later on these will be giving highlights towards the bottom to really make them pop. Creating weathering streaks down the model is really easy and simple to do using Vallejo's new model washes. It's just a case of looking for visual cues on the model itself, looking for rivets or any breaks in the panel lines where I think a streak would originate from. Just adding some highlights to those larger chips here, guys. I'm paying particular attention to make sure that the direction that the highlight's placed is the same on all chips. This is how the effect starts to look after it's been applied to several of the chips. Here I'm creating my own oil wash. The cool thing about oil washes and using oil paints and thinners is you can actually vary how thick you want the wash to be. I think the most important thing to remember, guys, is make sure you have a good quality oil paint. I mention this because myself, going back I think a year ago, I tried using some paints that was bought for the kids just to experiment, see what would happen, and the results was terrible. I personally am using MIG, but you can use other artist oils like Dale and Rowney. As long as it's a good quality, you should get good results. From the outset of this video series, I've tried to use all the techniques that anybody can use, and as you can see, it doesn't get simpler than this. I literally touch a panel with the oil wash, and the natural capillary action of the brush will pull all that oil wash into all the cracks and crevices and create those awesome shadows. After allowing the oil wash to thoroughly dry, I seal the whole model in with some Vallejo satin varnish. That was to get rid of that hideous looking gloss varnish, and also to seal in that oil wash, which would stay active on the surface for a long time, and you could actually easily smudge it around the tank. After the satin varnish had thoroughly dried, I'll start touching up some of the areas of the metallics where I want them to pop. Even though it's one of the oldest techniques in the book, dry brushing can still be really effective. Removing most of the paint from the brush on some kitchen roll, and also slightly feathering over the model in sweeping motions as if he was actually tickling the model, I find that personally the best way to get results. The worst thing I personally think you can do is actually scrub the model. It will lead to patchy and uneven results. When I paint fine details, I always make sure that my painting hand is braced against the surface. This enables me to have more control over the surface that I'm painting. After placing down the decals on the green surface of the model, the decal colour became really washed out, so here I'm bringing them back to life by overpainting them. Hard edge highlighting can really sell the look of a model and really make it pop. I have to be really careful here not to make the lines really thick, and also the paint's very thin, so I'm not going to get a really strong bold line. I have created a mud mix with MIG's pigment and Vallejo's matte varnish and some water. I'm going to put a link on this video to show you exactly how I went about doing that in a more in-depth video that I've done previously. But basically I just want to add a tiny bit of mud to the very bottom of the tank here. As I'm applying the mud pigment, I come back in with another brush with just water on it and I start feathering the mud out. This is really important because after the matte varnish and pigment mix dries, I'm not going to be able to do anything with it, and you don't want a really bold strong line where the mud is. It'll look too artificial and fake. I find the key personally to successfully applying the pigments is to actually do it slowly, bit by bit, and make sure that I'm constantly feathering out each individual stain. it's also important to add the mud mixture to the runners and the tracks as well. Adding the finishing touches to the model now, guys. Just adding a bit of Vallejo's gloss varnish to the lenses on the model. That's the end of this video series, guys. I want to say thank you all for watching and sticking with the all long 4 parts. Please don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and before I go I'm going to leave some footage of the completed Rhino.